Hey, Chris here from IELTS Advantage, and in this video what I'm going to show you is a real mock test from a student who got a band 8 in her IELTS speaking test. We're going to focus specifically on part 3. Part 3 is the most difficult part of the speaking test for most people. So what we're going to do is we're going to give the student some advice how to answer part 3 questions. She's going to answer them to show you what a very high level student sounds like, and then I'm going to give her some feedback at the end. So without further ado, here we go. Okay, Rashmi, so we're going to move on to part 3. The best way to think about part 3 is the difference between part 1 and part 3. So part 2 is like the long term, we've done that, forget about that for now. But think about part 1 is just questions about you, everyday, normal, small talk, getting to know you questions. Part 3 are none of the questions are really about you. They're more about ideas, about abstract ideas. So let me think of an example. In the first part, I asked you about the type of jobs people do in your hometown. That is just a question about you, your hometown. But if I asked you something like, how will jobs in your hometown change in the future because of AI? That is more an ideas type question. It's more of an abstract question. So that's the best way to think about that. And that requires a lot more development than you would in part 1. Part 1 is like, people in my hometown, they own businesses because blah, 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 blah. Not much. Like, you don't really need to go into too much detail. Part 3 is more like an academic essay that you're speaking about. So in an academic essay for a paragraph, you've just finished your dissertation. So you know this, you would write a topic sentence, then you would develop that topic sentence with an explanation. You might add some examples in there so that you fully develop that idea. That is what you want to be doing in part 3 of the test. So they will ask you a question. The best way to answer those questions is to answer it. Don't try and meander around and talk about things generally. Just answer it directly. Then explain why you think that or why other people think that. If it's like, why do some people believe this or whatever. And then think of an example. It doesn't have to be like, the Sunday Times said that 85% of people, you don't have to do that. Just some sort of example. That could be a personal example from your own life or your home country or your own experience or a newspaper story that you read or whatever. It doesn't have to be, a really high level advanced example. Just demonstrating that you know how to develop an answer using, and you don't have to, if you can't think of an example, don't be like, I don't know what to do. Just try and answer it as naturally as possible. So some questions will be that kind of structure. Answer the question, explain, example. Other questions will be, well, it depends. Often questions will be like, well, some people would think this, and this is why they think that, and here's an example of that. Other people would think the opposite. This is the other side of the story, and why they think this, an example. However, I believe this. So that's a really good way to fully develop your answer. You won't be able to answer every question like that, but it's just, again, tools to use. Don't use them as a crutch. Don't be like, okay, I have to think of a topic sentence, and just tools to help you answer it. The best way to answer the questions is answer them how you would normally answer them. So let's say you and I are doing a master's degree and I'm in your class and I ask you one of these questions. How would you answer it naturally? Does that make sense? So the examiner will be thinking a lot about development. They'll be thinking, so that's fluency and coherence. So make sure you're answering the question. Think about the question. Take a second or two to think before you begin. They'll also be listening out for complex sentences, your range of grammar, because they'll be asking you about past, present, future, conditionals maybe. They'll be asking you about to compare things, using comparatives, what you think, your opinion, comparing other people's opinion. And that's really to test your grammar. So if they ask you about how have things changed in the last 10 years, of seeing whether you can use those tenses. If they're asking you, some people think that X is better than Y. They're seeing whether you can use comparatives. If you were a rich person, what would you do? So they're seeing how you can use conditional sentences because they're asking you those. So think about the function of the question, and that will help you with the grammar. But I don't think you'll have a problem with that. Vocabulary, again, thinking about topic-specific vocabulary. The questions in part 3 get more difficult and more difficult and more difficult, and that is to test many things, but it tests very well your ability to use higher level vocabulary, because often people will be able to answer these questions in their own language but really struggle in English because they can't think of the precise words, because they're about more specific topics and abstract topics. Do you understand what I mean? Yep. And pronunciation, just keep enunciating and you'll be fine. The other thing with part 3, a lot of people get to the stage and they just want it to be over and they're tired and so they give really short answers, or they just like, oh, I don't keep going. And because as I said, if you get a really difficult question, be happy, because it means the examiner thinks that you are very good. They have a range of different questions. They have some easy questions for the lower level students, and then they have some very difficult questions for the higher level students. It's to really stretch your ability, your linguistic ability. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about the most expensive thing that you've ever bought. Now we're going to talk about money and young people. Why do some parents give money to their children every week?
Maybe to help them learn early on how to manage money and learn the value of money. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that schools should teach children about money?
Yes, definitely, because they teach mathematics already, so it would be good to teach them about budgets and about the value of money, and about it's more about how to be responsible. And children just don't know that how much hard work goes into earning money most of the time, because they all just see the ATM cards and they think that it's just that easy, like put in an ATM card in the machine and they get money. But if they actually get their own money and they are told to manage it for a week, and then they would be much more responsible, and so it is, yeah.
And should students, university students, earn money while they are studying?
Is the question, should they?
Should they? Yeah. Should they get a part-time job or something?
Yes, of course. I think it's a good experience as well, because when you are studying and then earning money, you become more independent and responsible with money, so it will be helpful in your later life. And I think yes, because it also gives you an experience, and when you apply for a job, it would be good to state that you worked somewhere and then gained experience. If not in the exact field that you are studying, then it gives you an opportunity to learn some soft skills, so that's a good experience as well.
Good. So now I want to talk about money and society in general. Can money buy happiness?
This seems like a philosophical question, but for me personally, I don't think so. Money is not everything. I do volunteer at a lot of places, so I know that I do that because mostly I'm an introvert. I don't really talk much, but when I'm volunteering with people, I gain valuable experience, and that's how I learned that money is not everything. To some people, yes, money can make them less miserable, as long as you are not like homeless or desperate for putting food on the table, and as long as you have like a shelter, a roof over your head, and food on the table at night. That's all you need, for me personally. So it depends on people, like what money means to them. But to me, I don't think it can buy happiness.
So, what are the disadvantages of income inequality?
it just means that the top 1% have everything, while there are people struggling and living on the streets. So economically also it's not good, because if there are a lot of people who are below the poverty line, that means the government has to take care of them, and they are not productive. They can't contribute to the economy when they don't even have like basic. They can't even fulfill the basic needs. So yeah, it's not good. I think there should be a balance, and that could be when like the rich are made to pay taxes, so they can contribute to help the vulnerable sections of the society, like people who are really in need of money, people with disabilities, people who are below the poverty line. So yeah.
And should rich people help those that don't have enough money?
If they can, yes, definitely. Because they already have everything they need. They can fulfill all their needs. And if they have money to spare, then it's always good to help those who are in need. Because it's, well, I'm not religious, I'm an atheist, but all religions tell people to lift others who are weaker than you. So the stronger should help the weaker. And it's always good to lend a hand to someone who is in need. So I think, yes, rich people should help the poor people.
Good. Well done.
Thank you.
How did you feel about those questions?
I didn't do really well, I think.
Why do you not think you did? You did do very well, but why do you think you didn't? It's always good to get your perspective before I tell you.
I think if the same questions were asked and I was asked to write, I would write better. I always think that I write better than I speak. So
yeah, and I mean they are quite difficult questions. Like, and as you said, one of them was quite a philosophical question, like, can money buy happiness? Should rich people help those who don't have enough money? They are more like an essay type question, because it really tests your ability to make an argument and fully develop an answer. But they're not looking for, master's or PhD level answers. Again, remember, it's a speaking test. They're just testing your ability to speak, fluency, pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, and all of those things were very, very good. I would give you some advice on some of them, and to improve some of them, but overall you did a very, very good job. The very first question, why do some parents give money to their children every week? That was a very short answer, but the rest of the answers were well enough developed, and you won't be judged on one question. And often what happens with students in part 3, the first question or the second question, their mind kind of goes blank and they can't think of anything, and then they panic and they're like, oh, I just want this to finish, and then it all kind of spirals out of control. But you recovered very, very well from that. The examiner is not testing your knowledge or your IQ or how much you know about this topic. They're testing your speaking. So you did answer the question a little bit short, but the rest of them were fine, and they're judging you on the totality of your answers. So don't worry about that. Some really nice collocations in there related to money, like manage money, the value of money, budgeting money. So you did demonstrate that you have a wide-ranging vocabulary, because if you can think of topic-specific words and collocations specific to that topic, that indicates to the examiner that you can do it for any topic. So that's why they ask you about a range of different things and a range of different topics. Because if you can do that for 6 or 7, colors in your hometown, and money in young people, and money in society, and inequality, and helping those in need, that's a very strong indication that in general your vocabulary is very wide-ranging and accurate. Some really good vocabulary or good grammar, really complex sentences, a wide ranging of structures, very, very accurate grammar as well, very accurate vocabulary. I think you made a couple of slips, but even people at a band 9 make slips. It says that in the marking criteria. So often people watching on YouTube will say, oh, she made one mistake, or he made one, and it's like, yeah, everyone does that. Native English speakers do that all the time. So just because you make one small slip doesn't mean that you can't speak English. I think people are very, very harsh. Or same with your fluency. You do one or one filler, and people think that your fluency is terrible. Like, no, 99% of it was fine. So I think that people need to be a little bit less judgmental when they're watching other people's performance. The fluency, the hesitations and the pauses, you did make some of those, but all of them were related to you thinking of ideas and thinking of as the content, rather than thinking of grammar and vocabulary and structures and things like that. So you would have got a very high mark for fluency, even though you did pause and hesitate a little bit. What I would recommend to you in the future is remember that it's a speaking test, not a content test, or not a, because often people, especially people like you who have you've just finished university, they're used to answering these types of questions and thinking very, very deeply about them. You'll often get this with people in the professions like lawyers, doctors, engineers, software developers. They're used to having to give correct answers. Therefore, they think very deeply about them, and this is not the time to think deeply about any of the. It's just it's testing your speaking ability, not your knowledge. So I wouldn't think as deeply about them as and that would improve your fluency. But your fluency was very good. Pronunciation again was very, very good, and overall, well done. You improved dramatically in just 1 week, just by following some simple advice. So any questions? No. And thank you to everyone commenting on these videos, and thank you, Rashmi. One of the comments I put on the last video was you are helping people for free, helping hundreds of thousands of people improve their speaking ability. So thank you very much. You've improved many people's ability, and that will lead to them moving and getting jobs and moving to the country of their dreams. So thank you so much for helping them out.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any questions before we finish?
No.
Nope. Thanks again. Chris here again. Thank you very much for watching the video. As a little reward for making it to the end, what I want to do is give you a brand new free course called IELTS Speaking Challenge. It is going to take you through exactly what to do for part 1, part 2 and part 3 of the IELTS speaking test. It's totally free. All you have to do is just click the link below, add your name, add your email address, and you can get instant access to our free speaking course. See you on the inside. Bye-bye.